All right, good afternoon and welcome. Hey, you guys, you're listening to Back Talk with Sharona. I'm your host. My name is Sharona. Welcome to the first installation of what I hope is going to be a regular feature here on Back Talk, Down and Dirty with Sharona. I've been wanting to do a podcast that touches upon two or three, maybe four hot topics that have been percolating. Definitely want to try to do it on Monday, every Monday, and so we're going to get started today. We'll see how things go. The thought process is to do maybe 30, 45 minutes. You guys know how I do like to go on those sometimes. We'll see how that goes. But today we're going to try to do 30 or 45 minutes, two or three topics. Social media. We're going to talk about social media. I've got some things to say about follows, unfollows, and blocking, and a message to some of the new followers who have very graciously followed me over the course of the past week or so. I'm absolutely terrible about going in and checking those things. I'll tell you guys why, and maybe give you a little insight into what it's like to be a woman out here in social media. But we're going to get started with your sports update. So what's up, Dre? How you doing? I sat and watched everybody, not everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of people clutching their pearls over an NBA player who may or may not have intentionally posted a photograph of his dick on social media, on Snapchat, to be more specific. Draymond Green, who's had, quite an interesting uh, past few months. He posted a dick photo out there. Everybody lost their shit over it. And as these things tend to go, he first claimed he was hacked. Then he said, he was sorry. He didn't mean to offend anyone. The usual routine, the same thing that we see every time someone, gets caught posting something that maybe they didn't, or maybe they did intend, and as it turns out later, it turned out to be a poor idea. And I was watching it, and I was like, you know what? I just can't seem to muster any outrage over this. Not that I think you guys should be out here posting your dick all over the place, okay? It's probably not a good idea, I mean, there's a time and a place for those things. If you're an NBA player, a current, flourishing NBA player, you should probably not be doing that. Okay, I'll remove the probably. You should not be doing that. I don't have any issue with the whole, you're an NBA player, you shouldn't be doing this. Kids are watching, blah 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 blah. It's cliche-ish, I suppose, but it's true. I mean, I think it's entirely reasonable for one of his teammates to pull him aside and say, "Yo, Dre, yeah, probably not the time to be doing that." Listen, when he's an ex-NBA player, he's out here doing his thing. If he wants to post his dick on Snapchat, I ain't gonna. If he wants to be the Marcus Vick of the NBA, I don't care. You do your thing. But it did make me think about how hypocritical we are about men posting things like that versus women. And I see it's a regular occurrence. Let me just put it that way. It's a regular occurrence in my timeline to see websites and other people retweeting or posting photographs of women who have seen fit to put the goodies out on social media. I mentioned Kim Kardashian. She's certainly not Nicki Minaj. There are any number of examples I could cite. Those women do quite well, by the way, on social media. Overwhelmingly, they are far more followed than women who choose to show their brains as opposed to their bodies, which says a whole lot about us as a society. But I mean, and I'm watching some dudes out here clutching their pearls, and I'm like, dude, I'm relatively certain I've seen you post photographs of some women showing some tits and ass, and you know, what about the ladies? Listen, as a red-blooded female with a decided preference for the male anatomy, I can tell you that I have perused some dick shots purely in the name of educational and informative, wink, wink, thought process, because we talk about such things here on this show, and want to be informed, and I want to be able to have that knowledge about such things. I mean, how hypocritical are we that it's okay for dudes to be out here looking at photographs of women's boobs and ass, but women can't look at dick shots, or men too. There are men who like dick shots. What about them? And I was like, some of these people clutching their pearls, I bet, they have looked at pornography or gone out there on the internet and looked at, some of the readily available images of, why not, what's up with that? Why can't ladies have, that advantage, have that ability to go out here and check out the goods as you will? Listen, Dre, you probably shouldn't do that while you are an active, and while you're an active NBA player. And I will tell you that while, I might enjoy the rush that I might get for a few seconds of looking, at your privates, I can tell you that as a woman, you're probably not the kind of guy I'm going to want to fuck with. You're out here showing your stuff to God knows who. And so, you're probably not the kind of dude that, that I want to perhaps indulge in reciprocal kind of behavior. So, maybe you might want to think about that too. But, if you want to be out there doing whatever, I don't really have a problem with it. I wish that we weren't such an oversharing society and we didn't do all of those things, and women who posted photographs of their assets, so to speak, weren't far more popular than women who chose to highlight their brains and their intelligence. But that's sadly not the kind of society that we seem to be living in these days. And, if you're going to let it, if you're going to celebrate it for women, then, let's not be hypocritical. And it really is the same thing. Listen, if you're out here, and here's some real talk for you, if you're like showing some interest in someone of the opposite sex, and it gets to the point where you're sharing photographs, and it gets to the point where you're sharing intimate type photographs, if that's your thing, I'm not here to judge. You're going to be showing those type photographs. And it's, for women, it's tits and ass, right? And, and of course the front side too, whatever you want to call it, the mommy parts. And for men, hell, we see your naked chest all the time. We want to, if it's truly the intimate stuff, it's ass and front, right? It's the same thing. And so don't come at me and say, don't at me, bro, and say, oh, it's totally different. It's his penis. So you know what? I've got probably some unpleasant news for you. We've probably seen it before. I hope that doesn't. I hope it doesn't ruin your notion of womanhood, but we've probably seen it before. So, there are my thoughts on Dre. How you doing, Dre? The other thing, your other sports topic, other sports update that I want to talk about is college sports. Baylor just can't seem to get right. Another report from the past couple of days where it is becoming readily apparent that Baylor was far more concerned with its image and quote-unquote brand than it was with the safety and mental and physical well-being of its primarily female students, because when some of its student body that it is charged with protecting came forward with allegations of abuse, sexual abuse, they threatened to expel them for drinking. They threatened to go to their parents with allegations and reports of, promiscuous behavior and activity, what they think is promiscuous behavior and activity. How dare you? How dare you think that this is in any way, form, or fashion acceptable for a college or a university to behave? Where is your where is your empathy? Where is your moral compass? Where is your common sense? These young women are as much a part of your brand as anyone. If I were a parent, and I had children, I would not, man or woman, doesn't matter. Either one, I would not send a child to Baylor. I wouldn't want my daughter to be placed in that kind of precarious atmosphere. I wouldn't want my son to think that this is in any way, shape, or form acceptable. I wouldn't send my child to college at Baylor, point blank, period. It's infuriating. And here we are in the year of our Lord, 2016, and we're still dealing with this shit. How are we still dealing with colleges that think it is okay to try to slut shame a possible victim of rape or sexual assault? How are we still there? It's beyond my ability to comprehend how we are still there. Yet, it's not just Baylor. Look at Texas A&M and what they did. They held this chalk talk for women, for children, for individuals of the female persuasion, and it was a complete and utter shit show of misogyny and sexism, and just so inappropriate that I can't even. I mean, I used to be such a big fan of Kevin Sumlin, and I use the word used to be deliberately because I don't even know about dude anymore. He's not who I thought he was. And, I guess I just hadn't been paying attention. I didn't realize he had hired that dude from the Miami Dolphins scandal. But he did, and he was involved in this. And I cannot even muster an attempt to put on any form of shocked face that asshole was involved in this. Anyone who would condone the kind of atmosphere that was in the Miami Dolphins locker room is completely and utterly devoid of a moral compass. And I'm outraged that Kevin Sumlin would hire that guy. It tells you everything about someone who they'll put in charge of educating and guiding our young people. And I'm just over Kevin Sumlin. I'm over him. And it breaks my heart because I liked him so much, but you know what? He's not who I thought he was. And that's about all I can say about him. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting how you learn these things and how these things, kind of formulate your thought process. And I don't know. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to turn our attention to the elections. We're going to talk a little bit about Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. So stay tuned in. You are listening to Back Talk with Sharona. All right, welcome back. You're tuned in and listening to Back Talk with Sharona. This is Down and Dirty with Sharona. This is a new podcast movement here. We're going to be doing this once or twice a week, talking about the hot topics of the week. No guests. It's simply Sharona, just Sharona mouthing off and talking about the things that are near and dear to her. So we touched upon the Dre Green thing, the dick shots, the situation in college football with Kevin Sumlin and Baylor. Let's talk a little bit about the elections. I'm struggling here. Let me think. First of all, let me start with the fact that, and I said this on Twitter, I want to reiterate it, I am a person who votes for candidates and causes, and I vote the way I think is best for my state, my city, my whatever principality is currently up for a possible change or, a continuation of what is currently being done. And I don't identify as a Democrat. I don't identify as a Republican. I think independent has been kind of co-opted by crazies. And so I don't want to say that I'm independent because, hello, vaccines are good. But I do look at the candidates and I try to sit down and figure out what is best for me as a woman, as a citizen, as someone who cares about civil rights, who cares about equality, who cares about the future of my city, my state, my country, this world. And I'm trying to make my choice dependent on that. I see so many people in my timeline or people who get RT'd in my timeline, and I'm reasonably certain that they are committed completely entirely to labels such as liberal, conservative, Democratic, Republican, whatever, whatever that label happens to be. And, as labels go, they're usually inaccurate. They're usually full of shit. They're usually if you vote according to label, you're probably not very bright. And let's just put it that way. And and I look at the current composition of the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, whatever other party is out there, and money plays such a key role in politics today. And unfortunately, I just think we're too far gone to really change that. I mean, we can make it better. We can put more checks and balances in there. But money talks. Money's always going to be a part of this. You got to have money. I mean, look at Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders had to run as a Democrat. He wouldn't have been able to raise the money that he needed to run as an independent, as a socialist. Can you imagine how the race would have been if Bernie Sanders had just run as a socialist candidate? I mean, he would never have gotten because people can't see beyond those labels. He would never have gotten as far as what he is. And for a lot of people, Bernie Sanders was the anti-Hillary Clinton. A lot of people have negative thoughts and negative feelings about Hillary Clinton. And we've talked about that on this show before. And to a certain extent, I understand it, although I think that rampant misogyny and sexism is the underlying impetus behind so much of that. By the way, there was apparently someone said something ill-informed about feminism. Let me check my calendar. Yes, the day that ends in Y. I am so shocked. Feminism gets such a bad, I don't understand. Apparently you don't know what feminism is if you think it's a bad thing. How can equality be, or you're just a raging sexist or racist, or you're just not into equality. You want to have certain people in power, and that's it, and you fuck everybody else. I guess if that's your thing, you go. But pardon me for thinking that we should have equal opportunities, and that judging someone by the color of their skin or their gender is wrong, and we should judge people by their qualifications and their vision and their resume, the things that they have accomplished, and what we think that they could possibly do if they were given that opportunity. Isn't that what the American dream is supposed to be? I think it is, but for so long, the American dream has been inaccessible both as a legal and then most recently as a practical matter for a very large percentage of our popularity. I was reminded of this as the Democratic Convention was unfolding before my eyes. You guys, I was so emotional watching all of that, and I'm really surprised. I didn't expect to be as emotional as I was, but I sat and I watched what the Republicans had to offer, and all they have to offer is bigotry and hatred and fear mongering, and that's not for me. And so, I watched what the Democrats had to offer, and it was so inclusive, and there was so much diversity on display, and there's so much to like about America and to celebrate about America. And I was so emotional. For 3 whole nights in a row, I did nothing but watch the DNC and cry. And it was just an amazing thing. And, Hillary Clinton has cemented the Democratic nomination. It's historic. As a woman, I can't help but feel pride about that. 100 years ago, 100 years ago, white women didn't have the right to vote. It was a lot longer than that before women of color, our sisters, who were denied that opportunity by virtue of this country's insidious and seemingly unrelenting racism. It was denied to our sisters of color, and we're still struggling with that. We're still struggling with getting our citizens who aren't a white American that practical opportunity to exercise. And Republicans would love nothing better than to erase the black vote, to erase the Latino vote, because they know that it's bad for them. You saw what happened in North Carolina, as if more voting opportunities is a bad thing. Where are we at in this country if we think more voting opportunities is a bad thing? I just can't even with that. We're supposed to be a democratic society, but I fear that we're not really that much of a democratic society anymore. So I was watching this unfold, and I was so emotional. And then, of course, the backlash was to be expected. And I understand why people have such mixed emotions about Hillary Clinton, but I do not understand how you can sit and look at Donald Trump as a Republican candidate and think that it is okay or in any form or fashion acceptable for this man to lead this country. And if you're thinking about voting independent because you think you're making some sort of statement or whatever about Hillary Clinton, you don't like Hillary Clinton, I understand that. But if you're going to vote for another candidate, all you're doing is giving Donald Trump that opportunity to lead this nation. And if you're doing that, I cannot help but think that in your very heart, you're sexist or misogynistic and not thinking clearly, because you're letting likability factor into this. We do not need Donald Trump as president of this country. It would be a complete and unmitigated disaster for him to be our commander-in-chief, to be our president. And, if nothing else, you've got to think about what's best for this great nation. I mean, seriously, think about that. I don't understand how you can think otherwise. Feminism, I don't know. I don't understand all the negativity toward that. We're going to focus on that in another show. I want to follow up. We've got just a few more minutes left. I want to talk about social media. I've been meaning to talk about this Breitbart dude. I'm very proud to say that I have never, ever, ever read anything on the shit show that is Breitbart. Never intend to and never will. They say ignorance is bliss. I'm quite happy not to know what insanity they're promoting or talking about. I don't even know how they're still a thing, how they're still out here doing things. But this dude who is associated with Breitbart, Milo, what the fuck ever his last name is, who is one of the few people out here in Twitter that I have ever blocked. I blocked him because he is a complete trash of an individual. He is a person who has absolutely no redeeming qualities as far as I'm concerned, and I did not want to see or be associated in any form or fashion with his with what he was saying. Well, fortunately, Twitter finally, in the year of our Lord, 2016, Twitter has finally decided to act like a business that has its customers, listen, what this guy was doing, not only was he inciting race wars out here on social media, he was inciting and inviting his minions to attack primarily women. He went after women, primarily women, and Leslie Jones was just the latest and the final straw. Why did it take Twitter so long to do this? If you were a bar, if you were a store, if you were any other private business out here operating for the good of your customers, you would never have allowed this asshole to operate as long as you did Twitter, ever. Can you imagine a woman going into a bar, into a restaurant, into a store, into any other type of private business and being subjected to this type of behavior, and you sitting on your hands going, well, we can't do nothing? Bullshit. You can do something. You wouldn't allow this if you were a store. You wouldn't allow this if you were a hotel. You wouldn't allow this. No, there's no wonder you're losing money. You don't operate as a business is supposed to operate. You're completely and utterly clueless as to what your users want. It's unfathomable that it took this long for you to ban this guy. Completely and utterly. Finally you did, but I just, I don't understand why it took you so long. And then you see, in the wake of all these police shootings and what have you, you see, police departments who have gone out there and had things that they consider to be offensive posts removed from Twitter and Facebook and what have you. As a woman who has tried to appeal to a local police department about abuse suffered out on social media, I can tell you they care nothing about the abuse that we receive, about the death threats, about the stalking, about anything. But boy, they sure are concerned about what they say about them. What hypocrites are they to tell a woman who's received death threats, who's received threats about, who gets her personal information just revealed out on social media for any crazy to come after, but it's okay to remove, things associated with police brutality. It's pretty crazy that, as a woman, I'm still sitting here asking for, for those rights that police officers and men take for granted. Here we are. But social media is a it's a funny animal, and I was reminded of that. It reminded me of an article that I tweeted this out. A black police officer wrote for Vox. Is doing a lot of really great work lately. I encourage you to read some of this. Ezra Klein's doing a great job. Full disclosure, I have written for SB Nation for their fantasy football department, and have nothing but good things to say about the gentleman. David is such a great guy, and nothing but good things to say about that experience. But I was reminded of that article talking about what it was like to be a black cop, and the hive mentality, and how peer pressure and groupthink and hive mentality really kind of drives things like social media. Because there'll be times I just don't feel like tweeting or whatever. And I'll just sit and lurk and watch and watch. Group dynamics always fascinate me, and there's definitely something to be said about that hive mind. One person says it, then another says it. And I talked about that last week with the Kim Kardashian, Kanye West thing, that nobody ever stopped to think, whoa, wait, this is bad. We may like Kim K, we may like Kanye, but what they did was the ultimate douche move. Nobody stopped to think that, because it became this wave, right? So it's kind of funny that way. For me, a woman who has had threats, who's been doxxed, who's had every despicable behavior you can mention happen to her on social media, it's definitely a two-edged sword, and I love it and I hate it at the same time. But I also am someone who does deal with PTSD, and I have found that the ability to manage that is dependent on what outside influences I allow to affect it. And I put that very inartfully. For me as someone with PTSD, and now that I am far more cognizant and aware and proactive about it, I just have to be careful what I let scroll through my Twitter mentions, what I will associate with on social media. I know that it's popular to celebrate assholes, sports assholes who constantly degrade and talk down to fans or what have you. I'm not into that. I'm not gonna allow that in my Twitter feed. It's not cool. It's not funny. The only thing that makes that cool or funny is this hive mind. No, you're just an asshole who really needs to get over yourself. So, I've been very fortunate to pick up a large number of followers over the course of the past week or so, and I am the world's worst about checking and following back and doing those. I don't even check unfollows because for whatever reason that flares up my PTSD. It does. I can't explain it. I don't know why, but it is an emotionally unfulfilling experience. So what I generally rely on, sometimes, I'll be in a conversation with someone and they'll follow me and I'll be like, oh, okay, cool. This person's cool. I'll check their Twitter feed and I'll follow back or whatever. But more often than not, it's I'm blissfully unaware and I don't check. And the best way to get me to follow you back, and and I just don't want to have too much nonsense in my timeline. I just, I can't manage that, and I'm not going to subject myself to that. And so, the best way to get me to follow you back, interact with me, show me that you're, that you're someone that I'm not going to. And you guys, I'll end on this because we're running close up against that 45 minute thing. All right, just call me lame. I don't care. I agonize over unfollowing someone. Literally agonize over it. And I don't typically mute. Occasionally I'll mute someone, but I agonize over that unfollow because usually the people that I follow are people that follow me back. And because for me, if I'm going to be on social media, it's going to be an interactive thing. And, there are people that I follow just, that have a gazillion followers and, they're not going to follow me back. And I understand that. But for me, it's the interactive nature of that website or that, that thing that, whether it's Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever, it's the ability to interact with my peers, with people who think like me and care about the same things that I do. It's that interactive feature that appeals to me the most. And so I'm going to more often than not overwhelmingly follow people who follow me back, and we interact, and and we have that interactive. If you're not going to interact with me, I'm probably not going to follow you. And it's nothing personal, but it is that interactive nature that is what appeals to me. And so that's that's my thought on, I'm grateful if you choose to follow me, and, if we interact, and, if we can coexist peacefully. Yeah, tag along. Let's have some fun. Let's, there should be more good people on social media who are thoughtful, who are cognizant of what a wonderful and useful tool it can be if it's used correctly. Far often than not, it's populated with people who use it in the worst ways possible, and it's unfortunate. But I'm not going to follow those people. I'm just not. I'm not going to follow you. I don't have much in the way of respect for you. And so there you go. There you have it. All right. So that's it for today. Down and Dirty. First installation of Down and Dirty with Sharona. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back. We may do another quick show on Thursday. Let's see what's happening. In the sports world and whatever. I haven't really talked about my fantasy football teams. Been doing a couple of MFLs. Maybe I'll do that. It's kind of interesting. I posted my latest MFL team, and I had some people say, drafted only 2 quarterbacks. Had some people say I was quarterback heavy or whatever, but when you look at the scoring rules, I don't know. Maybe we'll devote a show to that, and I'll talk about fantasy football and my thought process on that. So I hope that you have a great day. Happy Monday. We'll be back probably on Friday with a full Back Talk with Sharona, with a guest, and a lot of sports talk, a lot of other different things. And again, hopefully on Thursday, at least once a week, we're going to do Down and Dirty. We'll see how that goes. Happy Monday. Have a great week, and we'll be back soon, so stay tuned in. You're listening to Back Talk with Sharona.